Today we're going to work on this project. It's a little girl on the beach. Simple colors, not a lot of different colors in here. Lovely light coming from the left hand side, and nice beautiful shades and lights and movement of the dress as well. So we're going to start with the background. For the background, we're using Phthalo Blue, doesn't matter if it's green shade or red shade, and Cadmium Yellow Light. And then we're going to switch after to Titanium Buff or Unbleached Titanium. And if you don't have Unbleached Titanium or Titanium Buff, just use white, put in it either raw umber or burnt umber. Not much, just a bit. We're going to use also with the Titanium Buff a bit of Ultramarine Violet for the darks, and we're going to change the color from top to bottom, so soft change, and then we will work on the sand, make sure it's what we want, add the highlights, and then we'll continue. All right, so first thing we're going to do is take our Phthalo Blue, acrylic dries darker, and a bit of Cadmium Yellow Light. I'm going to try to work with a wide brush, and this is kind of a big brush, and also I'm going to have a small one here. So both of them are bright, which is a flat brush, but the bristle is short. That's why it's called bright. Okay, so depending on the area, if this is a big area here, I'll use the bigger. And if it's a smaller area where I need to go in between and then apply the color in between those little areas there, then I will use a smaller brush. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna mix my color with the small brush. We might need a tiny bit of white in there to desaturate the color a bit. Yeah, for sure. Now I'm looking at the color. Let's add a bit of white in there. But before I do anything, I'm going to paint enough, mix enough. And it doesn't have to be every time. Even if we have to mix it again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. But what I'm trying to do is get a little bit more blue on top, less green. So more of the Phthalo Blue with a bit of cadmium yellow in here. More blue color in there, more on the bluish side. And then let's put some white. Good. There we go. That will give me a much better kind of softer color. This is really strong. You can see from this mixture. So I'm going to take a little bit of white, put it in. Perfect. So I'm going to repeat the colors I have. Phthalo Blue, doesn't matter what shade, green or red, Cadmium Yellow Light, and Titanium White. I'm adjusting the color a bit. So the top part is, you know, I'd like to see more of the bluish green, and then we will move, the more we move down, we will add more yellow in there. Okay, that's good. You know, when you use a big wide brush, you have time to blend before the color dries. So I'll show you what I mean. Now I'm just spreading the color in, but you can see right now this color is flat. It doesn't have any kind of movement in there, and it's supposed to be the sea. So now I'm going to take white and I'm going to blend in the white, and that will give me a movement there. See, because I'm using a wide brush, the paint is still wet, so I have time to blend. If you use a small brush, what happens is that by the time you get to a certain area, let's say if you start from here and you get there, it's dry already. I went over the hat a bit, but doesn't matter. I can put it back on. Or I can try to remove the paint in a minute.
Now, did you add some burnt umber to yours?
No. No.
It's more earthy. Mine is, the Phthalo Blue is quite prominent.
What's your, what are you using? What Phthalo Blue? What make?
Liquid-X.
I think that's what I'm using.
It's usually what you use.
Yeah, sometimes I use Liquid-X, sometimes I use Golden, but I'm not sure if this one is Liquid-X. Sometimes it's the color itself, the make, but there's nothing in here that will make it burnt umber. More earthy. Sorry, raw umber. More earthy.
But it could be just the way it's showing up on our
screen. Could be on the screen, yes. I'm going to pause for a minute. Okay, so now we're going to continue. We're going to start switching slowly to green by adding cadmium yellow light to the phthalo blue and white. I'm going to add quite a bit of white. It's going to dry darker anyway. It's mid-tone. It's not very, very light because I need to leave room so I can highlight this after. And it's okay if it has a bit of blue in it. You don't have to mix it too much, or you know, you can see if you see the white in there. I guess more white, because what we're trying to do is make the watercolor the color of the water. softer now. Softer, brighter. I'm not worried about blending now here. I'll blend softly, but I can go back also with some phthalo blue and white and mix and blend here if I want. Right there. Right there. So, okay. I would say up to kind of her shoulder or her arm right here. And again, I'm going to start from here. You want to see those kind of whitish lines in there. Okay. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. I'm just going to paint her face, all around the face actually. Now this is where we're going to start switching to titanium buff. It's about somewhere about around this area here. But we will mix it with first once we start switching slowly, we will mix titanium buff with a bit of that light green that we have here, and then we end up with at the end with just titanium buff. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just softening this transition using some of the blue that I used before on top. Oh, that's a bit too much. And this way I have a very soft, nice transition between blue and green blue. There. Now it's time to clean a bit. Clean the face. Push back. Remove the color a bit here. We don't have to, because once we put the color that we want, you know, her skin tone, it will cover all of this. But if we can, right now, why not? There we go. All right. We're going to be switching slowly to the sand color. So I'm just going to clean up a bit here. Not much. I'm using a smaller brush because the hat is going to be over. It's going to come over this once we put the hat back. I lost the shape of the hat, but that's okay. We will put it over. I'm going to use a little bit more of course, with acrylics, because it dries darker, I'm going to be adjusting the value, making it lighter, yellower, bluer, whatever it needs to be done. And if it looks good and that's what you want, then you don't have to do anything. It's a smaller brush, and I'm just using a little bit more, again, white, just to give the water some movement. Okay. And we don't have to work on it too much. That's perfect. More than enough. And I'm going to pause. Okay, so now I have here titanium buff or unbleached titanium right there. And I have burnt umber and ultramarine violet. So I'm going to take my first thing I'm going to do, take unbleached titanium, make it a little bit darker with using burnt umber in here. Right there. And then a little bit of the ultramarine violet. Just gives me a beautiful color. I mean, we can use titanium buff with ultramarine violet, but it'll be too purple. That's why I'm adding a little bit of brown in there. Okay, now transition from this color to the titanium buff. I need to take a little bit of that color that I have, the light color, and put it in here. That will give me more like a sand color mixed with water. And it's kind of a hint of green in there, but it's not very strong. And I'm going to come here. And I'm going to make it more like kind of not very, not very, not a straight line. Okay. So with the corner of another smaller brush, I'm just blending in hint of this water in there. There. Okay, now I'm going to keep going. Bigger brush. And this has a tiny bit of the green in and the titanium buff. This is where we're going to be putting on top of it later on the foam of the sea. We're going to glaze the foam of the sea. So try not to make it flat. You don't need to flatten this color. Give it some movement. Doesn't matter. You can just, all I'm doing right now is I'm picking up a bit of the titanium buff, tiny bit of yellow ochre, and let's get to this part where it's right next to her hand. Okay. Now, in between the dress and her arm, and if I can't get that, movement of the sand, use with the big brush, because bigger brushes make your color flat. Smaller brushes will give you movement, texture.
It's okay to have some of that background yellow showing through as well.
Yeah, of course. All right, I'm getting there. All right, before my color gets, the color I have here gets dries, I'm gonna do the other side right here. Again, the same idea. This is kind of titanium buff with burnt umber, ultramarine violet, and a bit of green, lighter green. Okay. Don't want to have a straight, harsh line. Okay, with a smaller brush, picking up some of this color that has green in it, and I'm going to push in some movement. This way, I don't have a harsh line that's cutting through the painting. I'm going to put a little bit of a lighter color. So I'm going to start playing around with a bit of light color, some darks, some lights. Okay. If you don't want to, the best way to do something like this is to use your brush and just wiggle the brush back and forth on the sand. Just wiggle, just like that. no worries. It doesn't have to look exactly the same in the reference. It's not going to look like it, and it doesn't have to. So, all right, let's put this here. So, push back in now some darks using Titanium Buff, Ultramarine Violet, and a bit of Burnt Umber. Now I'm preparing to get into more of just Titanium Buff with Ultramarine Violet and Burnt Umber with no greens. And the reason I'm putting darker here, kind of this combination of the three colors, Burnt Umber, Ultramarine Violet, and Titanium Buff, is just because I want to put the foam on top, and I'm going to glaze the foam on top. So if the bottom part is too light, the foam is not going to show. It will show, but it will not have, you need to have some parts that are darker. This is good. All right, I'm going to stop for now, and then we'll continue in a minute. So for the bottom part, I have Titanium Buff or unbleached titanium, Ultramarine Violet, Burnt Umber. And I'm going to take my brush, maybe that one. I'll try this one. Take Titanium Buff. And if you see when you're painting, see some of this yellow, that's fine. This yellow ochre that we primed the canvas with, that's fine. It's good. All right, Ultramarine Violet. And you see this way now, you see how the Ultramarine Violet with Titanium Buff is too purple. You know, it doesn't have depth, just not enough earth tone in it. So that's why I'm using Burnt Umber as well. That will help give the Ultramarine Violet some earth tone. And, you know, because we want a dark first layer, and then we will highlight it on top of that. It's not dark. It's kind of a mid-tone. Now here, I loaded my brush with paint, and if I'm getting a bit of texture, don't wipe the texture away. Leave it. It's good. It's great. Sand has texture. See how I have a bit of texture here from the paint, so I'm not gonna try to smooth it. Maybe I'll smooth certain areas, but I'll keep some texture on the other area. Okay, let's take it to here. Mix some more. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same color.
So they should be lighter the closer it gets to the front?
We will highlight it.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't
We
really
will
matter.
highlight it. It is lighter closer to the front. But I like those dark kind of movement in there. If you look at the sand, it's not flat light. It has a bit of dark in there. So we're going to take advantage of the dark that we're putting right now, and to get that texture. I'm going to turn it around for a minute, just to be able to do this part. And there we go. We have the first layer of the sand. Perfect. I'm cleaning my brush, same brush I used. I'm going to take in more of the titanium buff. All of the titanium buff left over I have here. Put some water. I'm mixing it with the water using the tip of my brush. And now I'm going to take burnt umber, put it in with no ultramarine violet, just burnt umber and titanium buff. We can wait until the paint dries underneath, or we can do it this way without waiting, because there is another layer coming as well with lighter. So we're going to add white to this same mixture. We will glaze her shadow later on.
I'm sorry, what was that last coat of color now?
It's titanium buff and burnt umber.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm trying not to have harsh edges. I'm trying not to blend. I'm trying not to do this. Okay, so I'm just moving my brush around. To get more that kind of soft edge or soft sand feel. Because no matter what we do then, it will look like sand. It will be perfect. I am going to take white at this point, titanium white, and add this color white to the sand color that I'm using, which is titanium buff and burnt umber. You want to still see that burnt umber in there, but it's lighter. Now remember, we were using the first two layers. We used the first layer, titanium buff, ultramarine violet, burnt umber. Second layer, titanium buff, burnt umber. Third layer, titanium buff, burnt umber, white. Now, I'm going to pay more attention. You can see the difference. I'm going to pay more attention to the highlights in here and try to create those kind of soft highlights. And again, really, we do not need to have exactly what we see in that reference, but a little bit more detail at this point. This is kind of the water, movement of the water when the wave goes back. It gives you that sand color. Not sand, I'm sorry, movement of the sand. I added a little bit more of the burnt umber in this mixture of white, burnt umber, and titanium buff. You can see it right there. Going in, and I'm putting a little bit of those ripples in the sand. The darks, kind of. Okay, let's take a bit of lighter sand. Now, once this is dry, if we feel like it's not yellow enough for sand, we can add a tiny bit of Naples yellow in there and glaze it with a bit of yellow, Naples yellow and white. Just soften this. All right. Good now. Let's do a little bit of kind of a movement of sand in here. There is with water going over it. When, you know, sand, when water goes over, the wave goes back, it leaves this mark on the sand where it looks like it's kind of pushing the sand back. Right. Not okay. That's good. Because that looks like she's standing. She's just standing exactly where the wave went back into this. You know, I'm sure there's a technical term for this.
Receding back to returning. I don't know.
Kind of like that.
Ebb and flow.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm looking for. All right, got it. There we go. That looks like perfect. I don't want to touch it. Actually, yes, I will touch it.
You can't.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't not touch it. Again. All right.
It was a bit of a wash that you just used there, was it? Like a
no, it's actually thick paint,
okay.
but thick paint, but has water in it. Like it's not heavy.
Okay. Okay. So it's
and my paint is still wet, so and when you do that, when you're using this kind of movement and you're adding on top of layers and layers of paint, don't push hard. Don't push with because you only lift the layers underneath. Okay. Right. Good. We're good. We can glaze her shadow once the color is dry. And for now, let's finish this part, and then we'll see if we have time. Right, we're done for today. Tomorrow or next week, we'll continue working on the background, and then we'll start with the little girl.